Well, good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I'm the chairman of the MDTA Finance. It's a little, I hear myself speaking here, so is everybody on mute? You there? Okay, we're good. Good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I am the chairman of the MDTA Finance and Administration Committee. I hereby call the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order at 9 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance and Administration Committee webpage. All members will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. To minimize background noise during the call, I would ask that everyone on the line please mute your phones except when speaking. I ask that those who are presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you're done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, no media who have pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. At this time, we will begin with agenda item number 1, the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on February 13th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So move, Member Rosen.
Thank you, Member Rosen. Is there a second?
Second, Member Carroll.
Member Carroll. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Item number 2, approval is an approval item. Contract number SV 002-11187, Communications and Related Services. John Sales is here to present. Good morning, John. How are you? I think you may be on mute.
Let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. My name is John Sales. I am Deputy Director of Communications and Marketing. I'm here to present to you for a recommended approval from the Finance and Administration Committee, contract number SV 002-11187 for communications and related services to the full MDTA board at its next scheduled meeting. This contract is to provide communications and related services for the MDTA's Office of Communications and Marketing to aid in public education, promote public safety on MDTA roadways, and provide exceptional and equitable customer service to all of our customers and communities. These services may include, but are not limited to, development, production, and implementation of public safety and traffic management campaigns/messages, utilizing traditional media, digital media, social media, public relations, community outreach, research and analytics, crisis communication services, website management, as well as other related activities necessary to carry out this work. I will say that for this contract, some of the services, to sort of put a more personal perspective to it, the vendor is expected to manage the annual Bay Bridge travel campaign, which includes a lot of the advertising that you see with Spike and Otis, our spokesbirds, who are promoting 1877 baseband, as well as our baybridge.com website every year. They also provide strategic and creative support for a lot of our recruitment efforts. They support operations and construction project communications efforts, as well as education campaigns for high visibility enforcement in coordination with our police, as well as the Maryland Highway Safety Office. And they also provide work zone safety and Go Orange Day communications for us as well. So they do a lot for our agency here. This contract was advertised as a request for proposals under solicitation number SV 002-11187. 3 proposals were received. This was the best value contract that equally weighted technical and financial elements of the RFP. The recommended awardee, McAndrew Company, was ranked first overall and provided the best value to the state with the lowest financial proposal and first ranked technical proposal. This contract has a base term of 3 years with 1 2-year renewal option for a total contract term and not to exceed amount of $8.25 million. This contract exceeds the delegated procurement authority of the MDTA and therefore will need to be presented at the Board of Public Works at the next available meeting. And again, our recommendation is to we are requesting the Finance and Administration Committee's concurrence and recommendation to move to the full board for contract review.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from any board members?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
No, you go ahead. Go, Jeff.
Okay, member Roy?
Yeah, so the contract amount, the recommended is $1,759,200. Over 5 years, that would be $8,796,000, but this is a not to exceed of $8,250,000. So just want to reconcile the recommended award amount to the not to exceed amount.
Yeah, I
John,
don't.
do you want me to help you with this?
Sure.
Okay, I think Jeff Davis is on as well and can assist. Member Rosen, I believe what you're referring to here is when we're evaluating contracts like this, we have to give hypothetical examples, number of hours or a particular task in order to have a method to evaluate and compare financials for two firms. In this situation, though, the actual contract amount is the amount that we have our budget certification for. So that is the reason that there's a difference. One is used to evaluate, and the contract amount is based on total anticipated needs.
Okay. And the vendor's aware of that, I presume, because they submitted they submitted a proposal, but so they know that it's capped at $1,882,50, not at the amount that they proposed, and the scope will be limited to fall within that threshold.
Right. The any tasks will be limited to the not to exceed amount of the contract.
Okay.
Let me just seeing Jeff Davis on the phone or the call as well. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
I mean, you explained it, accurately, I would say, to Member Rosen's last comment. The firms know that the bidding, the financial proposal is for evaluation purposes only, and they know that MDTA has the sole discretion on the contract award amount.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Deb and Jeff.
thank you, Jeff. Member Ardinger?
Well, I think my question was similar to Jeff. So I just want to understand. So the 1.7, that's the annual amount, not.
No,
for
that's
3
the
years.
evaluated price proposal amount, just for ranking purposes only.
For an annual,
No,
annually, or
for the series of tasks that we put in the price proposal for them to respond to.
over 3 years.
The estimate of hours is it's not a guaranteed amount, and it's a listing of the typical work that could be had under the contract, but we don't explicitly state that it's the yes. So they gave us their best pricing for 5 years of the contract with an estimated number of hours. But we have more contracting authority if we find a need to exceed the number of hours that we had them estimate.
Okay. So the contract's based more on an hourly rate Is that what we're?
It's a not to exceed contract based on labor hours and I believe some miscellaneous direct expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I had some questions about this too, because I was reading it a little, I was reading it one way. So I don't know if there's, I'm not questioning the integrity of all this. I'm just talking about the way it's presented here, to maybe if there's any way we could, look at that and maybe make it a little clearer for the members. That's all. And I'm not, it's no criticism, it's just.
No, that's fine. So what we can do is, we're working to make these documents, clear for both committees and for the board. So perhaps an NTE, not to exceed amount column or line or something. The memo did explain how much we were going to award it for, but I understand if you all had these questions, then obviously it wasn't clear enough. So we will make sure that that is clear in the future. We don't know what the firms are going to propose when they bid. Some are really they propose really aggressively. And we created estimated budget based on the market and our available funds. And sometimes you get a situation like this where a lot of the pricing is very competitive. So we end up getting really good hourly rates. And what that does for us is it gets us a lot more hours under the contract, which is something that we always try to achieve for the agency and the state.
I know you do a great job in doing that, and we appreciate it. And
yeah, so we'll revisit that form to make sure it's clear, or the memo, whatever the best method will be.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And are there any other questions? Member Carroll, did you have any questions?
No, I think just more comment than question. Just anything that you can do, Jeff, moving forward to provide that kind of clarity would be helpful as we evaluate these things. And I think the questions that Member Ardinger and Rosen raised, from my perspective, just seemed to help me understand, and maybe you could speak to it, Jeff, that the vendors go into this knowing a not to exceed amount that trues up with whatever the not to exceed amount is on that contract top line. So it's it seems like a bit of a wild card from my perspective, but maybe it isn't because they're familiar with the procurement process and how it works.
Yeah, so a lot of professional services contracts are done with a not to exceed amount. And like I stated, the discretion is with the MDTA as to what that not to exceed amount is. On the capital committee side, they'll often see a lot of construction on-call contracts that will have a similar scenario where the bidding's used for ranking purposes and to establish hourly rates, but the NTE amount, their bid may have come in at 6 million, but our NTE amount is only 5 million. So it really is used for evaluation purposes only, and the bid form tells them that. So firms know that their bid amount in some cases will not be the contract award amount.
Thank you.
Well, you made that abundantly clear. So thank you. On this call, you've done that. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for both for your comments on this, and thanks for the work you've done behind the scenes to get it to this point. So there's a lot behind the scenes, a lot of work that's done. So thank you, John, and Jeff. Thank you as well.
Thank you.
And can't forget Deb. Thank her. So anyway, thank you. Well, okay. Do we have a motion to advance this item to the full board?
Member Ardinger also move.
Okay, thank you, Member Ardinger. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Is there any further discussion? Okay, is there all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion carries. Thank you very much, members. This is approved. So, alrighty, we will move on to the next item, number 3. And this is our last approval item on the agenda today. Fiscal year 2025 budget amendment, approval of a budget amendment to the operating budget. Jeffrey Brown is here. Hello, Jeffrey. How are you?
Good morning. How is everybody? This is for the record, Jeffrey Brown, Director of Budget for the MDTA. I'm here today to request approval of an amendment to the fiscal year 2025 operating budget. As a result of collective bargaining, 90 police vehicles will be purchased and distributed by July 1st. As a result, the fiscal 2025 budget will be $441.4 million. This represents a $7.3 million or 1.7% increase versus the previous fiscal 2025 budget. When we were first building these budgets, the expected activity for these police vehicles were expected to occur after July 1st. So these funds were budgeted in fiscal year 2026 rather than 2025. As a result of this, we need to move the funds from 26 into 25. This budget change represents a shift, as I said, between the 2 years, but it doesn't result in a net increase. It's just moving funds from one year to the other. In the documents that were presented, you have a table that shows the detail of these vehicles and where they're occurring. So as a result, the request is for a concurrence or recommendation of approval and to move this to the full board for approval for the fiscal year 2025 budget. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions? Member Artinger.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. I know you had forewarned us about this, so I appreciate that. Are there any other costs that will incur by the purchase of these automobiles, like additional insurance or anything else that will land in 25 that we weren't expecting?
Should not, because when we, the vehicles include, uplift costs as well and insurance and stuff. So there shouldn't be. We anticipate really this should cover the costs of fiscal 2025.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Have we already ordered the vehicles? Are we sure they're going to be delivered in the current fiscal year?
We expect them to be delivered probably in the next few weeks. I think anticipating April for delivery, maybe even a little sooner. I haven't checked it a little bit, but they were in process. They should be arriving in this year. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, I think that's correct. This is Bruce just chiming in.
Okay. Member Carroll, do you have any questions? All righty.
Just very quickly, if you don't mind, Member Rosen, originally these vehicles were expected to be delivered in early fiscal year 26, and so now they're coming in fiscal year 25. And so when we do the 26 budget, the final approval, we will reduce that budget by the cost of these vehicles.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full?
So move, Member Rosen.
Okay, thank you, Member Rosen. Is there a second?
Member Artinger, I'll second.
Thank you, Member Artinger. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Jeff, you're going to be staying up too on the next one, right? So we'll move on. We'll move on to item number 4, which is an update on the fiscal year 2025 Department of Legislative Services budget analysis. And Deb and Jeff will be presenting here. So here we go.
For the record, I am Deb Sharpless, MDTA's Chief Financial Officer. I'll be walking through the analysis and our response, and then Jeff will assist me if needed with any questions. So in your materials include both the DLS analysis as well as our responses to 2 questions that were asked by DLS. DLS is Department of Legislative Services, and if you recall, annually they do a budget analysis for which we attend committee meetings at both the House and the Senate. And this is a report out of those meetings and of that analysis. So the analysis primarily addresses MDTA's 26 operating budget, our revenue, our fiscal year 25 to 30 capital program, financial forecasts, and again, asks us to respond to certain questions. So I will move through this quickly, but please stop me if there's any questions on certain pages. So pages 1 through 3 highlight the change in our operating budget from the prior year and notes key observations, which are addressed in further detail later on in the report. Page 4 provides a description of our agency. Page 5 reports on our Easy Pass usage, a key metrics we track. In fiscal year 24, 88% of transactions were collected via Easy Pass. Now note, when you look at the graph, you can see that fiscal year 20 and 21 look a little odd. That is because of the impact of processing the transaction backlog and the types of transactions that were processed in each one of those years. Then when you move on to page 6, it dives deeper into our operating budget changes. And then pages 7 and 8 focuses on our financial forecast and where tolls are expected to be spent, as well as anticipated bond proceeds. Now note, because our forecast does not bake in a toll increase, in the future, when tolls are adjusted, that will adjust down bond proceeds. Pages 9 through 11 addresses our toll revenue, including changes from prior year, impact from the Key Bridge collapse, and revenue is illustrated by facility. Pages 12 and the top of 13 addresses revenue bonds, including past and future issuances, as well as non-recourse debt. Previously, we used to call non-recourse debt conduit debt, so that might be a little more familiar. The graph partially shows MDTA's strategic pattern of issuing debt over several years, followed by a number of years where we do not issue any debt, thereby reducing our debt outstanding. The bottom of page 13 shows us no change in our personnel. Pages 14 through 19 discusses our capital program. Page 14 provides a graph of our capital program by fiscal year. Page 15 provides a pie chart of the capital program by facility, and pages 16 through 19 highlight several capital projects. Now, beginning on on pages 20 through 26, this is the section where DLS asks us to comment on certain questions. They asked us to comment on the timing of potential toll increases and how they would be implemented. And they asked us to address anticipated timing of receipts of funding and if any funds have been received to date. This is federal funds. The first item can be found beginning on page 20 under the title MDTA Financial Outlook. And the second item can be found on page 22 under the title Impacts of the Francis Scott Key Bridge Collapse. I'll address our responses in just one second. First, I'll get through the rest of the analysis. The next part of the analysis is pages 28 and 29 provides updates. They provided 2 updates. One was on the Chesapeake Bay crossing study tier 2 NEPA, and the other one was on the extension of 995 and the opening of up to Maryland 152. The last pages of the analysis include several appendix that were referenced previously in the analysis. So next, I can address our responses to those. So right after page 35 of the DL analysis, you see the start of a document that's on MDOT's letterhead. Where I'm moving to on that document is where it says MDTA Financial Outlook. And so this is, and you see bolded the question that we were asked to address. with regard to the timing of potential increases. And so the first thing we do in our response is we acknowledge that a toll increase has been forecasted for many years now, that one day it was going to be needed. And we've been forecasting that since prior to the pandemic. We also highlight that due to more recent events, one, revenue because of the pandemic, but that's not as recent, inflationary pressures that's been applied to our operating capital budget, as well as the collapse of the bridge, has pulled the toll increase forward to 28. Previously, the inflationary and capital pressure and the pandemic had the toll increase in fiscal year 29. But now with the lost revenue from the Key Bridge, it's pulled it into fiscal year 28. And then the second part of our response is where they're talking about how would they be implemented. And we're reminding them that statute discusses how tolls should be implemented. And we're reaffirming our intention that we will follow statute as we consistently do. And then the last thing that we provided, and you've seen this flow chart before, is a flow chart of the toll setting process. We've included this toll setting flow chart in your board materials before when we've had to go through a toll setting process. The most recent would have been for the ETLs. So now moving on to the next question that they asked. If you just advance one more page, and this is the impacts from the Key Bridge. And that's where they asked us to discuss anticipated timing. So our funding sources include insurance proceeds, and then there's two types of federal funds. One's called Federal Emergency Relief Quick Release, and one is just Federal Emergency Relief Funds. And then toll revenue, and then of course any recoveries from the marine vessel Dolly's owners. So on August 5th, we received $350 million of our property and business interruption insurance. So far, we've used $25 million of that to fund debris. And then we, at the time of this, right, we had $10 million in emergency relief, quick release that had been drawn, and we expected it to be received that week, and it was in fact received. Next, we addressed that once we spend the initial $60 million, we will then shift over to spending the balance of the insurance proceeds. And then once they are exhausted, we will shift over to the federal emergency relief funding will be utilized. We remind them that in our forecast, we make an assumption that we have a 1 year, that it takes 1 year to be reimbursed from the time of expenditure. And then the last part is, just the reminder that, the state continues to prosecute its claim against the marine vessel Dolly's owners and operators, since they are the sole responsible party for the destruction of the bridge. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the analysis or how we responded to the questions that we were asked.
Are there any questions? Member Carroll, do you have any questions?
No, thanks, Member Paris. I appreciate it.
I'm saying that because I think after a little while, I've learned how to look for the hands raised. So I know you're calling in. So anyway, still trying to get that. But anyway, thank you. Deb, thank you for a very thorough walkthrough of this. It's a lot of material there for sure. I'm sure it's, I read it and then read it a couple times, I think, to really absorb it. But thank you very much. And you too, Jeff. Thank you. And
thank you.
We'll move on. Okay, thanks. The next item, item number 5, is also an update overview of awarded Key Bridge rebuild contracts. And our chief engineer, Jim Harkness, is here to present. Hi, good morning, Jim.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Jim Harkness, Chief Engineer. Happy to be here today to present an update on and an overview of the Key Bridge rebuild and the contracts that we've awarded and a little bit of how the scope of work for those contracts and how those all interplay for this big project. So on page 1 of the materials, you'll see we put together a high-level organizational chart for the project. So in the upper left, you'll see we have Federal Highway Administration, a key partner in this project. So we have a relationship, and they are an active part of this project. They engaged with us immediately from the start of the disaster to working on this project through planning, and now they're there for engineering, and ultimately will be there for construction. So in green, those are the state employees that are responsible for working on this project, myself included, as well as my Director of Project Development, Brian Wolf, and our Deputy Director of Project Development, Jason Stolickney. So those folks are heading up the project management, and especially on the engineering side. And then you'll see on the right side there, we have our Deputy Director of Construction, Bill Randau, and he will be ultimately helping this project as it moves into the construction phases. Below that, we list the 3 contracts that we've given out. We have on the left, the General Engineering Consultant, also we refer to them as the GEC, that was awarded and approved by the board back in December of last year. On the right side, in blue, we have the Construction Management Inspection, or CMI, teams. Those contracts were approved by the board in January of this year. And then at the bottom, we have our Progressive Design Build team. That is the Kiewit project. So right now they're approved for phase 1 services, which are the design and pre-construction work. So that was the contract that was approved at the end of August of last year. So you can see sort of the relationships that we have there. We have direct relationships with, as does MDTA has direct relationships with all 3 contracts. And then they have sort of relationships between the teams there. Particularly heavy right now are the GEC and the Progressive Design Build, the PDB teams. Since we're heavy into design, that relationship is strong and ongoing and constant. And then again, as we move into construction, the relationship on the right side there between the PDB and the construction management teams will increase and grow. So what we'll do is, as we have some more information about activities under the Progressive Design Build, we'll be updating the board information on things like early work packages, a demo of the existing bridge, and of course phase 2 as we move into negotiations on that towards the end of summer. So that's the overview of the organization on the project. If there are any questions, I can answer those now, or we can move on to the next page. All right. So page 2, here we're kind of detailing the Progressive Design Build team. So that is, of course, Kiewit and Kiewit Design, Kiewit Engineering. So we listed a few of the major subs here, certainly not a comprehensive list, just wanted to give a sample of some of the major subs that are included with that Kiewit team. So the scope for Kiewit under this phase 1 is to develop the design, and again, sort of starting from 0% design and ultimately getting to somewhere around 50% design, enough of a design where we can enter and estimate the job and be able to negotiate to a fixed price. So as part of that, the team is also responsible for developing cost estimates that go and reflect the design. So they're going to be developing cost estimates and schedules as the design progresses. They have, in addition to design, they have a little bit of what we're calling pre-construction activities. So those things started in January. So that's out in the field, gathering information through surveys, surveys on land, surveys in the marine environment. They're doing borings, taking soil samples on land, on the water. All that data that they collect feeds into the design. And so they are responsible for gathering that data for us. They also would be performing like a pile load test where they're going to check out how the pile that they want to use for the foundations performs. And so that's will be forthcoming as well. They're also scoped with assisting us with obtaining permits for their work. So the work that they want to perform ultimately in construction needs to be permitted. And so they assist us with putting those permits together, permits for our federal partners, Coast Guard, Army Corps, as well as our state partners at MDE and DNR. So that's a broad overview of that contract. I can move on to the general engineering consultant now. So page 3. This general engineering consultant is a joint venture of WSP, JMT, RK, and K. All very familiar partners to us here at MDTA. We've done a lot of work with these folks, including Nice Bridge. So, you know, we're very familiar. They're familiar with us, so that's a good start, and that's important so that we can concentrate on really getting to know the Kiewit team and working with them. So this group serves as our owner's rep through design. They're able to bring specialized engineering experience as well as just manpower, the manpower necessary for a project of this magnitude. They work on developing our project specifications, so the requirements that we're going to have for the contractor when they're in construction. They're also responsible for managing all of our task force meetings. So we have a lot of task force meetings in order to advance the design quickly. So they're responsible for managing those, you know, taking minutes, taking notes, getting presentations together, and then ultimately they also are responsible for design reviews. So whenever the contractor is submitting progress sets, which is nearly weekly, they are responsible for reviewing those and commenting and getting comments addressed. This group will also, in coordination with Kiewit, work on coordinating with our permit agencies. So we're sort of that direct interface with the agencies, and then you know, Kiewit is supporting us with giving the documentation we need and the making sure that we're accurate in the information that we're requesting from the permit agencies. This group is also assisting with public outreach. So we're doing a lot of community engagement, a lot of public outreach. This group is helping us with staffing some of those events, with note-taking, questions, getting questions recorded during our events, and just generally producing materials for public outreach. And finally, we can move down to page 4, which is going to be our construction management inspection teams. So these were 3 contracts that we put out. We wanted to make sure that we had, again, a good basis for resources, access to resources. So we have 3 teams that proposed here. We listed those all out here for you. And basically, this group is going to be responsible for quality control through used through construction inspection. So making sure that we have quality control during construction. They also have a quality assurance through performing on-site testing of materials, performing plant inspections to make sure that the materials are approved and of high quality. This group will also be monitoring contractor performance on various items, including DBE goal attainment and the plans that they have to submit for the DBE. They also will make sure that the permits that we're working on in design get adhered to in construction, and then they'll also be working to maintain the contractor's schedule as well, to make sure we're delivering as we're supposed to. And finally, I guess they'll be doing review and processing of the contractor invoices, and that's going to be especially important as this is a federal reimbursable job. So we want to make sure that we're adhering to all the federal requirements for those invoices. And that's all I have for the overview.
That was a great overview. I feel it was, well, let me first, rather than, before I speak, Member Arninger had a question, or a comment.
Okay.
Well, not a question, just a comment. And Member Von Paris, I'm going to echo what you said. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for everybody involved. I think that was excellent. That really helped. It's such a big project, and as the board, we appreciate. We're not as experienced as you are in the building of a bridge, so this helps a lot. Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. It gives us an idea of the scope, and we get aligned in understanding and future conversations. We have a much better awareness of it, and I'm glad that you all put this together, and it's been very helpful. Much better understanding of big picture.
Yeah.
And I really can't, I thank you for that, and those behind the scenes who put this together. So very helpful.
My pleasure. Thanks.
So thank you. Are there any other comments from any board members? Okay. Jim, thanks again. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Yep.
Bye.
Okay. We will be moving on to the last item on the agenda, our HR report, and we have MDTA's Director of Human Resources and Workforce Development, Tanya Dorsey's here. Hi, Tanya. How are you?
Good morning. Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Again, for the record, Tanya Dorsey, Director, Human Resources and Workforce Development, here to provide you a brief update of some of the things that we've been working on in 2024. We are busy as usual. Our recruitment and examinations unit handled 284 hires for the year, 188 new hires, 20 transfers, 1 reassignment, 14 reinstatements, 54 promotions, 5 career change demotions, and 2 voluntary demotions. We made great strides in reducing our vacancy rate, which is currently sitting at 10.5%. But we do note that we've had a month-over-month decrease of our vacancy rate during the year of 2024, and we continue to decrease it into this current year. Workforce and Organizational Development team launched a new development program. It's called the Supervisory Training and Engagement Program, also known as STEP. This is for new managers and supervisors so that they may have some additional leadership skills. We do have an end of training session where we do provide them with MDTA knowledge that is specific to how we supervise here at the MDTA. We kicked it off with rave reviews with our first 2 cohorts. And we have just last week started our new cohorts, and we're looking forward to continuing our partnership with Carroll Community College so that we can provide additional resources to our supervisors. Our human resource and information system had a reboot. So we had a system that was just over 30 years old on a mainframe. In September of 2024, we moved to the cloud-based system that we are currently using. Our team was involved in the setup, the build of the system, developing the specs, testing the system, and we were involved in the launch. Proud to say that we are getting our feet under us and getting used to the new system. Very grateful that MDOT moved over to this new system that is real time. We note that it has some functionality which allows supervisors and employees to make requests directly in the system, cutting down on them having to come to us outside of a system so that we can track better and make sure that we provide good customer service. Excuse me. We also want to note that our office provides support to MDOT in the way of sitting on the policy committee. I serve on that committee, and the goal of that committee is to take a look at all of our transportation service human resource policies to make sure they're up to date with regards to changes in legislation, changes in the MOU. So we've undertaken that role. We are moving forward. We've made it through several of the policies. We are just about to embark on a couple others. So the team is moving very rapidly, looking at policies, some of which have not been looked at for 5 to 7 years. So we are trying to make it a point to make sure that we have the most appropriate, most updated information in our policy manual so that employees will know what they're entitled to, but also what they're held responsible for. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions? Member Rosen?
Thank you, Tanya, for that report. Quick question related to our recruitment efforts. I know you noted what those were in 24, which was great. So now where we're at this point, so 10.5%, are we seeing any uptick or due to the federal job situation and folks looking for work who may be a fit for us in the state?
So we MDOT as a whole have undertaken several initiatives. We've developed a pamphlet for federal workers so that they understand the difference between how you apply for a job in the federal system versus how you apply for a job in the statewide system. All of the modes have actively participated in putting that document together and have provided our comments to TSO. We also are adding additional language to our job announcements so that, we can provide additional resources to federal government employees, most especially with our executive service employees, so that we know what translates from one system to the other. That's kind of the hardest part, right? If you get accustomed to applying for a job in a federal system, you have to kind of learn how to apply differently to work for the state. And so we are really spending a lot of time with that. Our team also is attending job fairs that are geared towards those who are displaced in the federal system, so that we can provide to them the opportunities that we have available here at MDOT.
Great, thank you, Tanya. I imagine we'll be able to find some people who have the appropriate skill sets, who are obviously eager to find a new home, and I think we have a good home to give them.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Member Carroll with a question. Tanya, thank you for the update. Non-related to the update, I just wanted to know, prior to full board meeting in a couple of weeks, are you able to confirm the situation with Jeremy Simmons?
So I'm sorry, what am I looking to confirm? I can provide you with additional information once we receive it from the family.
Yeah,
we
just
are
just
still in
just
holding
that
pattern.
exactly.
Yes.
That he has transitioned. I just wanted
Yes,
to
sir.
confirm that. Okay.
Yes,
And
sir.
just for the full board, I just wanted to make, or the committee, MDTA lost a staff member who happens to be an alumnus of my high school, and I just wanted to acknowledge his passing and extend our condolences as a board to he and his family as a result thereof. So, yeah.
Just as a side note, and again, this is part of the job that people don't get to see, but I had great pleasure in speaking with his mother, who did give permission for us to share that information. So that's why I was not hesitant to share it here. Had a great conversation with her, very lovely, and expressed the condolences from MDTA. Again, we did receive that information on Monday morning, so we look to hear something here shortly.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Very sorry to hear that. Bruce, I'm sorry. Bruce.
Yeah, so I thank you, Member Carroll, for acknowledging that. Yeah, it was a shock to many of us. So Tanya, thank you for your outreach efforts as well. I did want to go back to the previous discussion item with just, I'd say anecdotally, I've been talking to a couple of my colleagues in the other agencies. For those of us that have been in the industry in Maryland for a number of years, we're getting constant outreach. I'm getting calls from a former neighbor, former boss, referencing people that might be interested. Some are currently in the federal government and are looking at the state, and others have been, let go on probation and are looking. So we are seeing that kind of uptick both in Tanya's efforts and with MDOT, but also kind of the direct calls to many of us in that situation. So we'll see, when we see good people, we'll try to act on that.
Good comments. Tanya, I do have just a comment as well. The supervisory program, the STEP program, is it that you are using? I think that's great. And these certificates from a community college, I think that's a very positive thing for many people. If people say they haven't gone to college and they receive that, that's very uplifting. And I think it builds self-esteem as well. I've seen that in action. But anyway, I think it's a great program, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. So great effort with that. And a great job you do for MDTA. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, so we have completed everything on the agenda this morning, except for adjournment. So is there a motion before we adjourn, I want to thank everyone for participating today, and also those who prepared all the materials and everything they do behind the scenes to make MDTA the successful organization that it is. And I also thank our board members for their participation today. So on that note, then we'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Member Ardinger also move.
Thank you, Member Ardinger. Is there a second?
Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll.
Member Carroll.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.